Get into my next discussion this afternoon, and that's all about pesticides. You know, Monday we do focus on agriculture, and we'll be having something interesting from Philip Keitan coming up for you later on the show. But for now, the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Services reported in its 2018 annual report that there were pesticide residues in vegetable samples collected from various outlets and markets across the country. In fact, 10% of the sampled produce had residue levels above the EU maximum allowable level. So let's talk a little bit on pesticides in the country. And joining me is Hosea Machuki. He's the CEO of the Fresh Produce Exporters Association of Kenya. Thank you for making time for us today.
Thank you.
So let's get right into the conversation by, first of all, talking about the importance of pesticides and why, farmers have to ensure that they have this on board.
Well, pesticides, of course, chemical, biological substances that are there to ensure that we kill the pests or the herbicides or the weeds that invade our crops. Mm-hmm. It's important in the tropics to remember that it's a very conducive environment for pests. And so within the countries in the tropics, we don't have a choice other than to use pesticides. And as you're aware, pesticides use started in the 1939 when DDT was developed by one Paul Muller. And we have continued to innovate scientifically and use these pesticides to control the pests and to control the weeds. Mm-hmm. And so in agriculture, it's completely impossible to do this without the use of pesticides.
All right.
What is important is to be able to sustainably use them, mm-hmm. and to use them in a manner that is safe and controlled, just like we do with many other dangerous things in the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
But all these reports about the regulation and the fact that they are of higher levels than they should be, and reports, like I said earlier, were released to that effect. So who is supposed to be regulating this, and what's lacking in that front?
In terms of regulations, of course, we have the Pest Control Products Act that regulates the registration of pesticides in Kenya. And the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service has a mandate to collect samples, to monitor the residues within the various crops that we grow. Mm-hmm. So those are the two institutions, and there is the Horticulture Crops Directorate that has a mandate to ensure that the food we eat in this country is safe. Mm-hmm. So those three government agencies are really the key to ensure that we have safe food. And with respect to the residues that are found in food, it's really about misuse. Mm-hmm. I mean, if we follow the labels and the instructions by the manufacturers, mm-hmm. on the pre-harvest intervals, then you apply a pesticide today, mm-hmm. and you're supposed to wait for probably 3 days before you harvest that crop. If you harvest it before, chances are that it has not decomposed, it has not gone through the normal process, and so you'll find traces of that pesticide within that. And sometimes we use pesticides that are restricted for certain items on fruits and veg, for example. So that is something that we are supposed to continuously educate Kenyans to be able to follow.
So that comes down to the education level and to explain to them that, this is how it's done. Also, another factor that comes into play that the farmers say is that some of the instructions that are given to them by the manufacturer are too complex. So they don't understand it. So perhaps there needs to be more done in terms of simplifying the language?
Yeah, I mean, we have a group of experts in this country, the agribusiness advisors, agronomists, who basically translate that technical knowledge that's put on the labels to the farmers, so that they are then able to know if you say a specific pesticide, you just need to apply, say, 10 milliliters to 20 liters of water, mix it up, and then you apply using a knapsack sprayer or any other pump. So that knowledge is there. The trouble is that our extension system is not up and running properly. Mm-hmm. So we need to have more resources into the extension system, because then that helps to translate that message into simplified, messages that farmers are able to receive and work with.
Okay. Yeah. And in terms of the manufacturing of these pesticides, are a lot of them done in the country or not yet?
A lot of them are not done here. We import the active ingredients. Some companies will be able to package them in one way or another, but a lot of these active ingredients are found in other parts of the world. So what we do is we import, then we are able to package them for purposes of selling as per the requirements given by the Pest Control Products Board.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and your parting thoughts on how we can continue to help farmers understand the, technicalities associated with pesticides?
What is important to know is that we need to improve our food security. And there is no country in the world that is food secure that has not used pesticides or continues to use pesticides. So what is important really for us to know as Kenyans is that pesticides are important, but we need to judiciously use them. We need to use them correctly. We need to read the labels and simplify that to the farmers. And we need to adhere to the instructions on how we use the pesticides, because just like any other chemical, it's only fair, it's only important that we follow the requirements as laid down by the manufacturers.
All right. Well, thank you so much and for giving us a lot of insight into pesticides in the country.
Thank you.
All right, well, that was Hosea Machuki. He is the CEO of FPEAK, and we've been talking about pesticides, but we're still keeping it with agriculture on this episode, of course, of Next Frontier this week. And the government has been urged to come out and embrace the use of biotechnology in a bid to improve the country's food security. This is according to scientists who insist that the ban on genetically modified technology imposed in the country in 2012 has been the biggest obstacle of food sustainability in Kenya. Take a look.